One game to go here for PCS1 APAC. It's Miramar coming up for our final match of the day. Jordan, we've had some chaos shifting. We've had some quiet games. We've had some quiet starts that turn into a tornado. We've had it all, really, so far.
Yeah, we certainly have. It's been a pretty good day. I've been enjoying it. I thought Q Confirm was enjoying it until things started to get a little bit rough for them in the last couple of games. Although they did get a 5th place there on round 4 in Miramar and few points out of that one to get themselves back up into first. Xenox been crunching the numbers in the break there, you know, doing my usual thing. And what I have noticed, interestingly enough, is that on average, Fury actually do have the best placing. They're sitting at an average of 5.5. Now, I know you can't place 5.5, you can't place 5.5, but when you average it out, they've actually got the lowest or the highest, depending on which way you want to look at it, the best average placing. It's just not being converted by the kills. It's not being converted into chicken dinners or anything like that. It's quite crazy to think that Q Confirm, who came first and 5th, are still getting kind of on average outplaced by Fury. But I guess that is what it is. And Q Confirm have that 1/16th place that's really sort of dragging them down.
Well, that's the thing, right? You go from, what, 1st to 16th. That's when the law of averages says, puts you smack bang around that, like, 9th mark or something. But then one more, like, 3rd or 4th or 5th, whatever, brings it down to 5.8. Fury, as you said, yeah, have been pretty consistently above average, which is why they're sitting in 6th position right now. But, you know, Q Confirm, they're alongside Cerberus, have been the two standouts so far on day one. One game to go, though. Maybe there's still another team, Golden Cat, Monkey Esports, even maybe an outsider like MSC, that if they can have a win and a couple of 10 kills, for example, they can have a top 3 kind of cemented in place going into day 2.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some of the teams that have been sort of consistent across the day today. Astra, 7th, 6th out of 3 out of the 4 games, so that hasn't been too bad for them. Divine have a 6th and an 8th as well. So again, 3 out of the 4 games, not too bad, but it's just being able to convert these into decent placings as opposed to, you know, like, okay, well, we're in the placement points, we're getting points out of it, versus we're getting significant points out of the placement, I think is going to be the real question. And then obviously for the kill points, you know, you've got to look at teams like Cerberus and Q Confirm, who have put those 2 big games on the board. 17 for Cerberus in round 3, 13 for Q Confirm in round 2. Everyone else has just been sitting around, you know, 4, 5, 6 kind of a kills, couple of 8s thrown in here and there. But definitely on average, it's Cerberus and Q Confirm that are putting those big numbers together. And it's no surprise that you're seeing them up towards the top end of the standing. So I think we're going to be looking to Golden Cat, Maogi, Buriram to be teams that are looking to try and challenge in this final game.
Samoy, Victim Rise, as he gets the knockdown onto John. Kamals will go and punch his lights out, which is one way to sort of end your night there from Gearbox. Victim Rise, who were tied last with Carnage, now very much 1 point ahead in 2nd last position. Nothing too crazy for the circles. Miramar is like 90% usually pretty normal circles, and then like 10% you get the really, really wild, wacky circles.
Well, I don't know whether or not we're going to get too much of that. We obviously have quite a bit of experience with wacky circles on this map, but so far, so good on Miramar tonight. Things have been relatively standard. We'll take a look at how the map's panning out at the moment. Fit and the rest of Q Confirm are pretty happy in the center of the circle, so we could be seeing another big game from those guys, but look, I can't think that you're going to draw too many conclusions out of the first circle. It tends not to make too much of a difference. It's something that we have discussed extensively on Broadcast Xenox. It almost feels like sometimes getting the first circle feed is a bit of a curse. It's the ones that come later on in the piece, the 4th and 5th kind of feel like the more important circle shifts as opposed to just the first one.
Yeah, the first circle doesn't really do anything. Second circle, unless it's a really ridiculous hard shift, which can then put a team sort of, I guess, outplaced. Like it can displace a team because of a ridiculous hard shift. For the most part, though, isn't going to dictate too much. Once you start getting to phase 3 hard shifts and then your normal phase 4, 5 and 6 circles, that's what's going to sort of dictate who's going to sort of get lucky, who's going to be the ones that get fed, who's going to be the ones that are going to be able to sort of work off this sort of circle. I mean, we saw it literally in the last game with Bahumat and to a degree Buriram. Circle kept going north. It kept favoring those sort of teams. And because of that, Bahamut wins that game. Why? Because it shifted 4 times up north. If it even shifts once away from that position, they have to move away from that defilade at the road, run pretty much into open area and straight into the arms of Buriram. So, look, sometimes you're going to get games that you're going to win because of the circle. For the most part, though, you're not going to win because of the circle. Like, you take 20 games, you're not going to get fed for 20 games.
Definitely.
For the most part, you might get 2 or 3, at best 4, and that's about it.
For sure, for sure. One thing that I do want to talk about is Divine, kind of needing to get those points on the board. And at the moment, they've been sitting pretty consistently in sort of 6th or 7th place as far as placings are concerned. But Miramar in the Charity Showdown certainly was their map. Yeah, they had 2 second places and 2 first places on Miramar out of 20 games, or out of 10 games. Let's be real, because half the games were on Miramar. So that's like 40% in the top 2 on Miramar. And obviously, they kind of let the ball drop a little bit more so on Erangel comparatively. So far, they haven't been able to have a big game. Maybe here in Game 5 on Miramar, incidentally, is their chance. But I'm definitely looking at them to be putting points on the board here on Miramar, because if they're not being able to do it on Erangel, which we've seen so far today, they have been okay, but they haven't been fantastic. Definitely going to need to be doing it here in Game 5 if they want to be in the discussion heading into day number 2 at the top end of the scoreboard.
Where do we go? Where do we go for this final game? La Bendita, there's like Minas Generalis, Graveyard for the center of the circle. And I'm just thinking, if we continue to sort of go with these hardships that we've been seeing a lot of tonight, although to be fair, nothing too crazy on our other Miramar game that happened last match. Even something like, I don't know. I think up north, if we go up north, that's where it really opens up a bit. Besides San Martin, anything on the south side of this current Phase 1 circle, you're going to go like Picardo, La Bendita, Los Leones. There's going to be compounds. There's going to be locations. Unless it goes over to something like Impala Way, which has got a very open western field of Impala. But, of course, 4 minutes until we find out where that's going to take place. No surprise, of course, to see things a bit slow going early on. Miramar tends to be that way. And even a chaotic region such as this one, Jordan, is still going to have its times where it just breathes and slows things down a bit. But what we've been seeing is that around that 17 to 20 minute mark is where it all just explodes, essentially.
Yeah, that's where the chaos ensues, that's for sure. Astra and Fury are relatively close by on the map. We can see, in fact, actually, that they've got an idea of each other's positioning, although at the moment they probably wouldn't know exactly who it is that they're firing at or being fired at from. Might have a bit of a sneaking suspicion, though. It does seem that these two teams do run into each other quite a bit on their rotations on Miramar, just by nature of the fact that they're dropping in relatively similar locations. Picardo and Los Leones, if the circle goes north or even to where it is right now, you're expecting to see Fury and Astra run into each other. The other Australian team, or Oceanic team, Carnage, just out to the west of both of these two as well. So it seems like they're all buddy-buddy at the moment. Keeping a bit of an eye on Q Confirm, who is to the north of them. Lynxie's the one that's spotting back down toward Picardo, so we're not quite getting the vision onto Q Confirm from him. But there are a few Astra players that are looking in towards their position in Graveyard, keeping a good idea of what's going on. And this is some pretty good scouting. Like, it's a nice position to play from for Lynxie. He can see pretty much everything out to the west of him, quite a lot towards the north, quite a bit towards the south as well. So actually at this point, Astra should have quite a bit of information.
Looking at the map, everything's very vertical right now, from Los Leones all the way up to sort of water treatment. A lot of teams crammed in vertically rather than horizontally, besides like maybe Buriram, who are a bit out to the east. But like mentioned that Astra can see out to the west, but there's no one out to the west. Everyone's up north, everyone's center. And if they're down south, like day trades around sort of Los Leones. Top 1, Seva from Moggy Esports does spot, I believe, day trade from that position, but so far away, the bullets probably would drop by the time it even reaches that position. MSC on the rotation, and it's a team that I mentioned prior in the pregame, Jordan, as a team that can go one step further. They got an extra couple of gears. One of that being Yoshi Minburi, who, you know, coming into this, he was the MVP of the Thailand series, the best performing player coming into PCS APAC from Thailand, and hasn't been, I don't even think he's found a kill yet.
I mean, I don't know. I couldn't really comment on that, to be fair. It's quite hard to keep up with it after 4 games. Maybe after one, I might have been able to tell you a yes or a no answer. Don't have those stats in front of me, unfortunately. Some of the stats, though, I'm looking at Victim Rise and sitting down in 15th place. It hasn't been a particularly kind night to them. 2 points a game on average, only eclipsing Carnage, who are playing in the APAC region for the first time. So they've probably got a bit of an awakening here that they're going to have to go through over night number 1 and night number 2 to kind of get used to the meta that's being thrown at them. What I will say is actually you're seeing Fury and Star performing a little bit better than what they did. I guess Fury's kind of in a similar position, but Star certainly looks like they're having a better day than they did in day 1 of the charity showdown, which is probably to be expected given the fact that they have now had that time to get a little bit more used to the way that the APAC teams play and what they need to be doing in this particular matchup. So it's good to see whether that will continue or not, and whether or not Star can get themselves, well, Astra, I should say, can get themselves a higher placing than 8th. I guess we do have to wait and see, because there was a few sort of caveats over the charity showdown. Linksy just joining the team. I guess there is the caveat now that Nikus has just joined the team for Astra this time, but they should have a better understanding of what they need to be doing. Looking at the circle shift.
They got the circle this time. Fury as well in that. Day trade probably don't have to worry too much about moving. And it is ironic, of course, as you're talking about Astra, they probably get their best feed that they've had, not just this tournament, but maybe even including Charity Showdown, where, you know, they were very vocal about saying how they didn't really get a lot of circle luck. Because Jet is going to put one to the back of the head of Camels from Victim Rise, kind of along with Carnage, the 2 teams that are noticeably struggling the most, I would say, is fair to say.
Yeah, I agree. Extreme gets into an engagement with Venotica, so we already talked about Astra having a good position, but it's not going to matter if they can't hold it down. Now, this is a good opportunity to get some points on the board, because Day Trade is one of those teams that struggled quite a bit in Charity Showdown and haven't been putting in a particularly amazing showing so far today. So it's not like you're going up against Q Confirm or Cerberus. This is a winnable fight for Astra, and they have good positioning as well with those 2 players on top of the high ground, being a bit of an Overwatch kind of a situation. But Extreme and Nikus do elect to just get out of there. They're not too eager to take an early engagement, which I can also kind of understand. It's the percentage play, if we want to go down that train of thought, right? The percentage play would dictate that there's a higher percentage that they survive and get more points out of this game if they just back away, as opposed to if they try to take this fight, because it's a high risk, high reward kind of a thing if they stick around.
1.5 minutes gone. Final match of the day for APAC. My boy, unfortunately, I think is about to be a dead boy. Does get Yoshi Minburi, who has not been able to take a trick at all, Jordan. He's knocked. And now the player that's next to him, Ilonix, is also knocked as well. I keep bringing it up, but I keep maybe cursing him. He has one more lifeline. Turtle runs out of ammunition. Rossiter Jr. makes it across. The revive straight onto Yoshi Minburi, who just cannot take a trick right now at all. Nothing is going his way.
Yeah, it's been rough for MSC, hasn't it? Divine also are a team that's looking for points out of this game, and they might have had a couple there on a silver platter, but they're not able to really capitalize on it. Those 2 getting knocked down in the building, and they'll be rezzed up, so MSC will be okay for now, but 2 of their players onto second knock this early in the game can eventuate into something impactful later on in the piece. It's something that we don't really talk too much about, but these early knocks, and you know, you get knocked a second or a third time in the late game, and there's just no chance of a res, as Basil does a bit of an interesting maneuver with the vehicle. He's okay, though. Continuing on.
The 2 up for Victim Rise. MSC did get both of the revives for them, so they've gone back to 4 players up. And speaking just on them again very quickly here, but you consider the fact that they're in 9th, Jordan, 20 points, and yet it feels like they've had an awful day in luck. Yet they've been able to push through valiantly and being able to still put in a pretty decent performance, all things considered.
Yeah, being able to put in a decent performance when things aren't going your way is part of the game, you know? It's only day 1, so even if you're keeping yourself in a half-decent position without dropping away too far, there's always another day that you can come back and get a bit more luck, have a better day. That's a circle shift and a half, though. It's gone straight up above Picardo. The cliff cutting the circle in half as well. And this is going to be very interesting See how teams are going to negotiate this one.
Astra had a bit of fortune for phase 2, but as has generally been proven time and time again in PUBG, it's not the circle you want. Phase 3 would have been better. They are technically still inside of this circle, but it's DIC and to a degree maybe even MSC that do get a bit of the circle luck here for phase 3. Considering the nature of these circles so far tonight, who knows, maybe it just hard shifts back down to the south again and kind of just really leaves MSC begging. We'll see how they can utilize this phase 3 circle. For now, Fury Australia, as we head over to him, Waikika Mukau knocked down onto JSQ confirm. We mentioned has slowed down exponentially since the first 2 games, and well, here over to Miramar, their match 4 was a bit better, but and they are going to be down a player for the remainder of the game and end of the night, I guess, as well.
I don't know how I'd be feeling if I'm Fury right now, seeing that that's Q confirmed. Yes, you've got the initial knockdown, but do you want to continue to take that engagement? I dare say they're not too interested. You can see them backing away right now, and it's a good thing they're doing that because Carnage has rocked up beside them. Astra, remember, are also quite close by, so it's all 3 Oceanic teams in very close proximity. It actually seems like Fury have a bit of an idea, a bit of an insight maybe, that there are a team hanging around.
The Zoid may know that Waikik is this close to him. He has an idea. He knows and he heard the nades and the shots. But you can see how he's kind of looking over towards Roan and he's looking over towards the longer distance. Not so much Waikik and Mukau just close by to him. So he's got to be careful that he doesn't get eliminated in that position, because if he does get knocked, he will be eliminated. And speaking of eliminated, there goes Victim Rise. 8 points for them will be their final resting place here for day number 1. As Carnage start to push through, they got no idea they're being camped by Jukesy at Insight. Ronan and Waikika Mukau will provide overwatch from the further north position inside of the phase 3 circle. Look at the time, there's only 48 seconds. The blue is moving, and they're not in. Insight's not able to get the knockdown onto Monty at all. Has to now proceed to fall back. Jukesy will cover him. Goes to the underarm nade. Does have to be careful that he doesn't get rushed, because of course, Carnage have to move forward. They can't just sit, take the fight inside these buildings. They need to come out. This is not an ideal spot to be for Carnage, but Fury are playing this super aggressively. Insight covering Jukesies. He takes a lot of damage. This is not really going cleanly at all for Fury. Monty gets the knockdown onto Insight. There is remonstration though. Waikika Mukau from a distance gets the knock onto beat 2. But to Astra, Jordan, hear these shots and start to push on this.
Yeah, it's all happening at the moment, isn't it? And Astra is the team that can play spoiler for both Carnage and Fury. Circle Shift also starting to come in here. We see QC, a couple of players popping up on the kill feed. They're getting some more points. Here's Zoidmate involved. He thought he might have gotten that kill, but he hasn't, so the grenade's going to get thrown out. I dare say that's probably a little bit too deep. There goes Waikika Mukau. What has happened to Carnage?
Jukesy has just eliminated them all at once, basically. We didn't really get to see it. We've been focusing on this push from Astra onto Ronan and Waikika Mukau. Jukesy's still alive, but he's in the blue. You can see it on the mini-map. Insight did go down, so Waikika's by himself. Doesn't really have a whole lot of help. And Zoid with the M249 headshot puts him out of his misery. 5 kills for Fury. It'll still be decent. They get something from this. Jukesy might be able to make his way into this next circle, because the circle did hard shift down to the south. It came back towards Astra, going away from them in phase 3. Gearbox down to just J end as we finally leave the Oceanic teams for the time being. Astra come out top ahead of all of that because of the third-party potential. Feels bad for Carnage, though, Jordan, in that they really did put up a decent fight, but it was always going to be tough for them. As Q confirmed, put an end to Gearbox. 13 teams remain, and we are heading towards that 17-minute mark and the chaos that ensues after.
Well, what I really like about watching Q confirm is that they're always able to continue putting points on the board, even when they're at a deficit. They lost JS early on in the piece, but they've just won a pretty decent fight against Gearbox. 3 points from the kills, and they're going to have 3 players alive as well, so they could potentially still go deep in this game, looking at where they are positioning-wise. Bahamut Gaming trying to breach Divine, and Divine are playing from the church. You put 2 and 2 together, Xenox, and I'm not sure how well this is going to go for Bahamut Gaming.
Levi's knocked down by Art God. It seems like since the win, it hasn't been that long, but they've just been able to step things up a bit. Bahamut Gaming, who was a team that was pretty much rock bottom, dead last for the better half of pretty much all the games on Erangel. Maybe they are a team, Jordan, that just loves Miramar more so than Erangel. We know that that's the case for some teams. Jukesy from the blue. He's being a bit cheeky here against Astra. Knocked down into Extreme. He wouldn't have liked that, but now he's in a 1 versus 3 behind the rock in the blue. Not a lot really going his way. The Molotov can stop one angle, force him to the other angle, or just throw the nade and be done with him. Nice effort from Jukesy, but really in that situation, 1v4 in the blue, never had a chance. And Astra get their third kill of the game now, and they're in a position here on out for the remainder of this final game, match 5. Astra can very much push up the standings. Golden Cat, though, very much pushing right to their location now. Tong K is out of the open, though. Lynx is closer to the barrel, has now the nade. It's his last one in hand, throwing it to Tinoy. Tong K can maybe just wrap even further south and catch him off guard, but maybe Golden Cat don't realize all 4 members of Astra are here. They're up and they can take this fight.
Oh, this is all because of Jukesy sitting in the blue there. He's given away the position of Astra, and that's prompted Golden Cat to send these 2 rotators across. Q Confirm also having shots up the hill in the direction of Astra, who have now lost Nikus. Zoidmate proning behind the rock, healing himself up. Extreme gets into the hut, but it's not looking like a fun position here at all for Astra. They have to deal with a fight on 2 fronts.
It's Vit from a distance, spots Zoidmate. Not landing the shots initially, but has plenty of time now, just fires off angrily. Tonke sees the feet of Lynxy, has no idea that Tonke is creeping up behind him. Final nade for Tonke, throws it willingly with Tanoy close by just to his left. Golden Cat have got all members up, but on the map you can see Six Sacks and Maximus are so far away from this fight. Lynxy's knocked down. Another hard shift, of course, as Astra do get fed. Well, not really fed, but they're kind of getting these circles to finally go their way. Of course, they're in an absolute barnstorming fight against Golden Cat. Fury before that. QC's Gems is close by. They've got it all happening at this section of the map. Extreme and Zoid are the last 2 alive for Astra, and what is also the last Oceanic team alive in this game for the final match of the day.
Yeah, I think they'll want to keep their heads down for the moment. Just try and prone it out and let Q Confirm and Golden Cat have a bit of an engagement. That's a good shot from Poochills. Headshot smell here from Cerberus. He's the last player alive for the 2nd place team at the moment here in PCS APAC. So good chance if they go down that there is going to be a team like Golden Cat sniffing at their heels pretty quickly. Maximus having a peek down the hill will spot out the engagement that's happening here by Cerberus and Daytrade. But you can really only imagine this goes one way. Smell, he does have to move. Daytrade are right in front of him. He's gotten the knock onto Poochills. But how much more can he really do from a position like this? It's going to be someone to finish him off. In fact, it's the circle in the end. Six Sacks helping on that. But it was always going to be tough for Cerberus and always going to be tough for Smell to get out of that one alive. Daytrade, however, seem to be okay. They'll rotate in. The buggy might not be the ideal vehicle of choice, but no shots being connected here from Golden Cat.
Golden Cat looking to finish off strong. Started a little slow in the first 2 matches, but since then they have been a team to contest with. That nade has very much gone the distance towards Daytrade. Doesn't connect though. Minute until phase 6. Things just slowing down back over towards like the Astra Way, for instance. Everything that's happening is happening out west over towards this location. You can see it on the minimap. Everyone's just trying to fit in. There's Monkey. DIC up north, MSC, I should say, still got a couple of players up there as well in the blue. Daytrade. It's all jam-packed out to the west. 45 seconds until phase 6. Who's going to be able to pick up the kills and potentially move into this next circle? Those that are down to the south or up to the, I guess, even east/north. Buriram doesn't have to move, for instance. They're not going to find kills, Jordan, but they're going to stay alive and get to the end game.
Yeah, they certainly are, and that's going to be quite important. Placement points always going to be a factor. Divine struggling in that respect so far today. They've been able to hit in top 6 a couple of games, but that's not really anything to write home about. And it seems like, again, that's going to be something that they'll struggle with. 2 players left alive, Namsi and Turtle. They're getting pushed by Bahamut Gaming right now. They have to go through another couple of teams as well, one of them being Buriram. We'll see where this circle does end up, and it's right on top of Buriram again.
Well, that's a hard feed. Buriram United, who I think after like match 2 were maybe in the bottom 4. And similar to Golden Cat, very similar rise. These 2 teams have sort of followed the same path for day 1 as it's sort of transpired. And Buriram have now got a massive chance to put themselves into a top 4 position to close off day number 1. Bahamut Gaming's another team that's also stepped up the pace over on Miramar. Vandal just trying to stay alive for Eagle Sentinel Shooter. They've struggled. They're in the bottom 4. Not sure how much more they're going to get from this game. At best, maybe a placement point or 2 if they can make it into the top 8. And, well, there they go.
Yeah, Sentinel Shooter out of the picture in 9th, so no placement points for them. Bahamut Gaming keeping an eye on Divine, and really it's just Turtle left alive. He's lost an AMC. Shinryuji pops a bit of damage. It's a headshot. You can see his helmet looking a little worse for wear. Extreme does get finished off by Jowman, and I don't think we're going to be seeing too much more from Astra. I might believe it's just Zoidmate left alive now. Divine Esports are inevitably eliminated. That's Art God to pick up Turtle. Into the placement points we go, though. So, Golden Cat looking pretty good. 4 players alive down in the southern area of the map. Zoidmate is finished off. That's by Tonke. And so Astra is eliminated in 7th. Another okay placing, but nothing too special from Astra today. Still, they're in the mix, and that's all you can really hope for out of day 1. Golden Cat are looking to put themselves maybe up into 2nd place here.
Yep. Obviously, though, Q Confirm also finding points this game. They've still got 3 alive. What I can see far off into the distance, very far off. Spit just goes prone as they start to push over to Golden Cat. And obviously they had, 41 points from the first 2 games. Since then, only 17. So things has slowed down. Certainly, at one point, you mentioned, well, you said they weren't going to get 400 points. Certainly they weren't, but very dramatic drop-off from QC after their first 2 games. It would be
absolutely unreasonable to expect that a team could get 400 points in a 20-game tournament. Hey, even in a 40-game tournament, that's a lot of points.
Yeah, it is. Day trade down below Golden Cat, flash up, but they're getting third party as well from DIC, just a little bit on the other side of what looks like a very much dirt road. Puchil's just trying to stay hidden, so it's Flash. Flash is going to be knocked down prior to that. DIC, only with 2 players left, CVD and JJ Leo, are able to just at least impact the game a bit. Puchil's held off into the shack for the time being. Buru Ramp not going to find too many kills from this sort of position, but when you're getting hard fed from this, well, no, I'm saying like for the last 3 phases prior to this, Jordan, they weren't going to find many kills. Now, as we get to phase 7 and 8, 9 after that, this is where you expect Buru Ramp to sort of just come out of the shell a bit, find a couple of kills, and end the game with a win. And if they can do that, they'll probably join Golden Cat and QC as maybe the top 3 teams. We'll see, of course, how the points rack up after that. Maybe top 4. Buru Ramp right now should at very least end in top 4 at the end of the day.
Oh, for sure. They should be overtaking
Moggy.
A couple of teams. Yeah, Moggy. It's a hard name to remember. Anyway, Golden Cat, 6 sacks, has been knocked on down, and I'm just interested to see how deep Q Confirm and Golden Cat can actually make it in this game, because that's going to be the real difference maker for the standings at the end of today. If Q Confirm come in 2nd, or God forbid even 1st this game, they're going to just rocket ahead of everyone else again. But if someone like Bahamut Gaming can maybe soak up a lot of points, Buru Ram, we will see the top sort of 4 condense quite substantially. What has happened to Golden Cat, I have no idea, but they've just been deleted by Q Confirm. So that's more points on the board for Q Confirm and Buru Ram. Golden Cat won't end up overtaking Cerberus, even though it looked like they were in a good position to do so.
Buru Ram, though, still in a really good position to at least sort of join 2nd and 3rd and maybe reach the 40-point mark by the end of day number 1, which is where you kind of want to be. And even though, as you said, Q Confirm very much now can build a slight lead again. But in saying that, from what we've seen of them, they can have some high highs and some very low lows. And going into the day 2, there's still a big potential for the likes of, I'd say pretty much everyone down to like even MSC on 22 points. All it takes is a couple of good games and QC to have a couple of bad games. Long way to go still. As we close out match 5 here.
Oh, how much more work can CVD and JJ Leo do for DIC?
This is taking a long time, Jordan.
Tends to get that way sometimes on Miramar when there's a lot of cover in play. Bahamut and Buru Ram kind of occupying the same position, and they're able to sit there quite comfortably. Obviously, now seeing that circle shift, Bahamut are going to have to get a bit of a wriggle on. The flash does connect with Shin, but he'll be okay for now. I think it's going to be when Bahamut do have to move that we're going to see things get a little bit interesting, because for now, Buru Ram will not be moving from their position. Q Confirm are going to have to come down off the hill as well, so that's another concern. Who has to move first?
I would have liked to have seen Bahamut make the move on their own terms rather than just electing to push in when, of course, they had to, which is the blue pushing for them, phase 8. 7 seconds until phase 9 now. DIC Gaming may be able to help them, but also be able to hurt them. And same can be said for Q Confirm, because the problem is Buriram are inside these buildings and BG are running around outside of the buildings, which means QC, DIC are going to want to take pot shots at them more so than Buriram. But how does Buriram even make it out of this alive?
No,
Art God's immediately taken out by God Meow. Much better performance from Bahuma on Miramar, has to be said. Svit finds JJ Lou. A little bit too close for comfort. Now pulls out the AK with the 3 times. And so what this means, though, is all of those shooters who were looking at the fight between Buriram and Bahuma taking each other out. Doesn't matter. Buriram didn't need any help. But this also now gives them a chance, very, very slim one, to make a move for it, find somewhere that they can get some cover while DIC and QC are potentially taking shots at each other.
Oh, don't tell me that QC is going to win another game here, Xenox. They've actually got a pretty decent position. Dowman has a ridge in front of him. They've got the high ground there for Svit. Gems is also hanging around. If they can actually get a knock onto one of these Buriram players as they're coming out from the compound, maybe Q Confirm can sneak away with another victory. 3 for tonight. It would be a huge night from them. Already is a huge night, to be fair, on 63 points. But Buriram certainly still looking like the team that should pick up the win from here with the numbers advantage, but it can go so wrong with DIC and Q Confirm looking at them.
Orchard just spotting CVD. Well, I mean, they've got the numbers advantage, but even though they've got that, they're at the lowest point, and they've also got 2 different teams looking in their direction. What they needed was a knockdown more so onto QC. They get that now onto Gems. Jowman onto ED, though. Runs out of ammunition, unable to finish off Nordra. Now, JJ Lair has just been knocked down, so Buriram are taking a fight with 2 teams here. But Q Confirm are also happy to shoot over to DIC if they need be, but right now they're really whiffing this. Buriram have essentially just taken out DIC and Q Confirm at the same time together, winning this fight from what seemed like an unfavorable position. JJ Leo trying to just stay up here and heal and go for the revives. Nordra, if they can get him back up, Buriram is certainly going to have the numbers still on their side. DRC have got 2. Q Confirm have got 1 in Svit.
Svit has the positioning, though. He's the one that's in the center circle, or at least as close to the center of the circle as possible. I think DIC is going to have to recognize that. They're going to have to do something about it because Buriram is the team that's going to walk up on top of them. DIC do not want to get sandwiched right now between Svit and the rest of Buriram. CVD and JJ Leo still just hanging around. Buriram have used all of their utility. Smokes are going down. Now we see DIC going up. I think this is a smart move. They can get rid of Svit, isolate the 1-on-2, and then take the 2-on-3.
They push up. The smokes are going to aid them and really just sort of take away the vision of Buriram United. So now DRC, they take out Svit. It's a 2 versus 3, but they've got the high ground. So they're in a really good position. God Meow's caught napping. Now it's a 2 versus 2 with the high ground. DRC suddenly taking advantage here into this final exchange or the final match of the night. Canaxi taken out by JJ, and they're all gone. DRC Gaming from the left of field, 6-kill win to take out match 5. And at the very last second, you just saw them shooting up the leaderboard there, Jordan. 16 points. And
that is huge.
They can sleep a bit better tonight.
Yeah, that's really, really good stuff from DIC, recognizing exactly what they needed to do. Svit was kind of the difference maker. Had he dealt with DIC or had he dealt with Buriram, he could have ruined either of their days. And if no one pushed into him, he could have actually ended up picking up the victory, given that they would have had to have moved up the hill regardless. So I really like what DIC did there, going up, isolating the 2-on-1, knowing what they needed to do to take the favorable positioning and take the favorable fight initially, and then focus on the task at hand, which was dealing with Buriram. Look, still pretty good points out of that one for Buriram and Q Confirm, who lock in a fantastic, it's a phenomenal day really from Q Confirm. 2 wins and a 2nd place. There was the outlier, there was the 16th place in game number 3 of tonight, but by and large, they have been the most consistent team and the most impressive team here in PCS Series number 1. But I think for me, I'm pretty interested to see how the rest of the standings are going to shape up, because there's quite a few teams that are really getting themselves pretty close to the top end of things.
Yeah, I mean, we started off the day with a top 1 situation, like you said, and coined at the very beginning after the first 2 matches, which, you know, from there now it is a little bit more, I guess, even. Q Confirm still hold that first spot that we saw at the very beginning of the day, but since then, you know, Cerberus, Golden Cat, Buriram, these teams have been able to close that gap, make it a contest, and really solidify themselves as maybe the top 4 teams right now, as we do have the updated total leaderboard for day number 1 now as a whole. And one of the big ones is Bahamut Gaming, Jordan. I know we can talk about first, second, and all that later, but this was a team that was like dead last after 3 matches of Erangel. We switched over to Miramar, and they get like 27 points in those 2 games.
Yeah, they got a first place and a 4th place on the 2 Miramar games. So it's what we talk about. Sometimes teams just seem to be better at one map than the other. Cerberus, much better on Erangel than, for example, what they were able to do on Miramar. So it's a storyline that we're going to have to follow throughout the rest of this competition. But things certainly are moving and shaking quite substantially. Obviously, it's day 1, so you can't really count anyone out at this point. I think VTR and Carnage certainly struggled quite a lot. Eagle SS as well here in 14th place. Probably not putting the numbers on the board to get you too excited about their prospects. But even from day trade on the rest of the leaderboard, I think you can sort of look at these teams if they have a good day on day number 2, potentially being able to turn things around.
One of the trends that we actually saw from Charity Showdown, I don't know if you remember, but the chicken dinners, the teams that were winning games, by the end of it, there was only one team that won a game that was in the right-hand side of the bracket. So if you're winning games, your odds of obviously going into the top 8 is exponentially increased, but it just means that you're getting reward for effort. And of course, if you're winning those games, it's a good sign. The IC Gaming, they pick up their first win of the tournament while they're on the right-hand side of the bracket, while they are sitting in 9th at the moment. That's been their biggest jump up the leaderboard basically the entire day. They can now sort of go back, watch the VODs, have a day off, and then come back. And really, for these teams that performed better on Miramar, there's a bit of catch-up potential for them going into that second week, Jordan, of course, where we will have 6 games of Miramar and 4 games of Erangel versus this first week, which obviously has 6 games of Erangel.
Yeah, definitely. For a team like Fury, though, maybe that's not good news. They had a 10th and a 13th, so not being able to get into the placements, and that certainly has hurt their consistency quite a lot. It was something that I've been harping on about throughout this broadcast so far, Xenox, but not being able to keep it up after the first 3 games. Look, across the board, it is still day 1, Xenox, so I don't think we can draw too many conclusions just yet. Yep, Q Confirm is looking good, but that's what we said about day 1 in Charity Showdown as well.
The only thing I would say is probably Eagle, Carnage, and Victim Rise have got the most. Would you agree? To work on, yeah.
Yep, 100% agree with you.
All right, well, we are going to wrap things up here for our first day of PCS1 8-pack edition. In about, I think, 9 hours' time, North America will begin. So make sure, of course, if you're not following the channel and you want to make sure to stay tuned with more PUBG action around for PCS, hit that follow button, stay tuned, and in about 9 hours' time, North America will be on your screens.